Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about chain abstraction and the future of cross-chain user experiences. Calvin from Spartan Capital. I'll hand it over to our panelists to intro themselves and perhaps provide an intro to your project.
Thanks, Calvin. Hi, everyone. This is Vince, a co-founder and CEO at zkLink. We're building the industry's first aggregated rollup using zero-knowledge proofs. And we are also launching a chain abstracted product feature, which is called zkLink. Basically, it's multi-chain intent URL. So happy to be here to discuss this topic.
How's it going, everyone? Boots here from XION, the layer one for mass adoption by way of chain abstraction. I run business development over here. Happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. This is Rachin from Twine, and we are building a multi-chain settlement L2, which settles on multiple chains instead of one, and provides a more I'd say from our perspective, the most practical way for chain abstraction and the most secure way. So, yep.
Awesome. Great. So, as we all know, chain abstraction has a pretty broad definition, and I realize you guys are all taking very different approaches. How would you define chain abstraction, and what are your project's approaches?
In our case, we're probably not a very typical chain abstraction protocol because we started with multi-chain zero-knowledge rollup. We have been integrated with roughly 10 different layer 2s, mostly Ethereum layer 2s, optimistic layer 2s, and also zero-knowledge proof layer 2s, including the most mainstream ones. And then we built this layer 3 to aggregate the liquidity across these different layer 2s to be able to simplify the developer and the user experience and aggregated liquidities together to solve the challenge of liquidity fragmentation. And then we realized that based on our multi-chain architecture, actually we could take one step further and build this new feature we call zkLink, which is basically intent-based URL. And we believe this I think it suits very well the narrative of chain abstraction because it abstracts away the chains and the layer rollup networks for users. And it allows the users and the developers actually to create actions across these different chains, so the users would not have to have the gas tokens, would not have to have funds in advance on those different blockchains, and be able to make a transaction, or trade a token, buy or sell, or do another, or send the tokens like the red packet function, etc. So there's a lot of actions that actually unlocked by this multi-chain intent URL. And so our understanding of chain abstraction is abstract away the complexities and the different tech stacks and features of different blockchains, layer 1 blockchains and the layer 2 rollups. And number 2 is allow users to make a transaction without having the gas token in place, or using just one single wallet to make transactions across different blockchains and rollup networks.
Well, I think my colleague here just pretty much summed it all up. It's pretty hard to yes and that one. One of the core kind of tenets, or on the big vision board as on, is this idea that we want to make crypto disappear, right? On the face, that sounds a little nihilistic, but really what it gets down to is this idea that for crypto to become what it was truly promised, which is this idea of truly democratized, finance or global accessibility, we need to abstract away a lot of the technical complexities that exist today. For everyone here in this room, the idea of making a new wallet on a new chain every time you want to use a new dApp and keeping your seed phrases, and then I got to fucking load up my Kraken, and then I got to send fucking Matic so I can play on Polymarket and all this stuff. That's just, a day in the life for us, right? But if you want your aunt, at Thanksgiving dinner, to be able to gamble on whether Kamala Harris says a certain word in a debate or not, in one day in the future. You're going to have to make it a lot easier than that, right? So when we talk about chain abstraction, we like to think of that as an umbrella term for all of the different abstractions that fall underneath it, right? And that's wallet abstraction, which is probably the most popular, right? The idea of being able to log in with just your email and 2FA, that's fantastic. A lot of people are doing that. I think that's going to become de facto in the future. But also, like we were just saying, gas abstraction too. Being able to use USDC as gas and that becoming standard practice as well. Having completely invisible atomic swaps that happen on the back end between chains, so that you can transact seamlessly and you don't have to worry about bridging and gas fees, things like that. All of that falls under the umbrella of chain abstraction. All of that will become or is necessary, for mass adoption to occur as we want it to occur, right? That's the vision. Yeah.
Wow, I'm not left with much to say, but so I think, like, to me, as you said, it's most of the focus on chain abstraction these days have been around like wallet abstraction and a lot of that stuff. But I think for me, I see chain abstraction as like, I think that like right now, the best form of chain abstraction is like centralized exchanges, right?
Yeah.
Like you see, you can trade anything, like, you can trade assets from any chain, do a lot of the stuff without like facing any difficulties with like the same experience in the centralized exchanges. So the problem with that is like, but you trust a centralized intermediary, right? So how do you decentralize that? How do you make it as trust minimized as possible? So I think for us, it's like going that route and focusing on going deeper on like what already exists with or like the more used to framework for trading and transacting for users.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for that. So I want to go through some general questions regarding wallet/account abstraction. So what are the implications of chain abstraction for projects that are building with you guys, right? For example, for certain products, the chain or even ecosystem could be a key moat for them, right? And since you guys are abstracting all of these features, do you see chain abstraction taking away this moat from these projects?
I can kick this one off because it is a great question, right? If your goal is to kind of, I don't know if equalize is the right word, but make people indifferent to chains, of course. Sometimes the chain is the mode, right? The approach that we're taking is specifically seeking out, builders and projects who are natural fits, right? We don't have any DeFi on XION, right? Okay, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. But I think one of our flagship dApps is kind of like the perfect example. It's called EarnOS, and it's basically, we just made questing, but for like IRL brands, right? So you can log in with your email to EarnOS, and you can go to the North Face website, and you can look at a bunch of different fucking snow jackets or parkas, and then if you take a look at enough, you get $5 USDC, goes to a MasterCard that you can add to your Apple Wallet, right? Basically, the question that we posed these guys was, if you were going to send $5 to 2 million people everywhere in the world, how would you do it? How would you do it on the blockchain? And how would you do it in such a manner that nobody knew they were using the blockchain, right? So those are the type of things that, in our opinion, are useful IRL examples of democratized access to finance, doing it with crypto in such a manner no one knows that they're using crypto. That is kind of the overlap part of the Venn diagram that we think makes chain abstraction, at its best. So that's an example of some people that are building on our ecosystem. No.
We have a little bit like experience with dealing with 10 different layer 2s, and we do have the feeling that they are a little bit concerned about the fact that, this aggregation layer or abstracted layer is taking away the liquidity from their own chain, because everybody is competing right now in the market to trying to get as much TVL as possible, right? As many builders, as many applications and transactions on their own chain, because at the end of the day, you all need the metrics for the whatever the token. And at the moment, I think that these different chain abstraction solutions are still very small, and it's hard to really compete, or it's hard really to have same kind of like bargain power if you talk to these layer 2s. So mostly you just think from their own perspective. But once one of these solutions gets really popular and a lot of users get used to your products and and the products running on your infrastructure, I think then things will start to change, and then these layer 1, layer 2s will be naturally be more willing to collaborate, and then they will contribute even more. So this flywheel will start to run. And in our case, I think at the moment we're trying to work with every chain and every rollup network that is technically feasible that we can integrate. And of course, when we make the choice and the priorities, it's also based on the fact that how much TVL there is and how many activities we're seeing there, how many applications and users and the funds and tokens being popular. There's more demands for trading and transactions. And for that, I think this is the same kind of like business thinking for vice versa. And again, in general, I think these chain abstraction solutions are still very, very early and small.
Yeah, amazing answers. I think like the way I like to think about this is thinking like about the analogy of smartphones and how it integrates a lot of features like camera, microphone, music player, and all that stuff. So for let's say for 90% of the users, like the camera on our phone itself is like good enough, right? Because all I want is just like click a picture, just click a button and click a picture, right? But then if I want to go deeper on the stack, if I want to fully utilize the features of camera, I'd rather want a more sophisticated specific camera, right? So and same with microphones as well. Like to record a voice, I can just use my phone to do it. But if I want to do a podcast, for example, I'd want a high quality mic dedicated for that, right? So I think the way I think about this is for most of the applications and for most of the users, the applications that live on the chain abstracted environment is fine enough, and only a small set of applications that require a specific feature that a particular blockchain enables, a particular ecosystem enables, is where all the users flow, right? So for example, if I want to build a per second payment application, I won't be able to do that on Ethereum, right? I'd rather want to go on Solana, for example. So I think that's really how I see about building a moat around ecosystem or a chain. In particular, TLDR is okay, for most of the applications and users, a chain abstracted environment is great enough, and only a few set of applications and sophisticated users is where they would want to go to a particular set of chains based on their specific needs.
That's an interesting way of thinking, and a very good analogy, to be honest, the mobile phone analogy. I think it's a very good place to aggregate all the experience to one device, or one layer for that matter. Perhaps we'll see more applications that are cross-chain nature, getting built in order to reach this mass adoption that we're all hoping for. I'm curious. What would you say are the biggest hurdles for cross-chain protocols that you guys are working with today? Particularly, I guess, in terms of security, scalability, in what context or in what way, they should work with you guys? What's the biggest hurdle for them, at least from your experience as chatting with them?
There are two perspectives. One is from the developer perspective. I think cross-chain, the fundamental challenge is still security. Yeah, because it's to manage the states across different blockchains poses a lot of questions on the tech side. If you do that within the Ethereum ecosystem, I think our approach is almost the state-of-art kind of solution. We utilize the Ethereum layer 1 mainnet to synchronize the states across all these layer 2 rollups. It's kind of similar to the base rollup solution. You have these, consensus back to the layer 1 so you don't have additional security assumption. But then there's also the trade-off of finality, because you have to wait for all the layer 2s to post the transactions back to the layer 1. And for the optimistic rollups, it takes as long as 7 days, 8 days. That is just too long for user experience, which is terrible. This is the cost for high level of security. But if you can accept like a degradation of security, then you can use the AVS of eigenlayer, for example, restake the protocol to accelerate the finality, and then you have a better user experience. But then you have the question of whether the AVS protocol, the security, is good enough for how much amount of assets, because at the end of the day, it is economic trust and economic security. For other cross-chain protocols, cross-chain bridges, I think represented by Layer 0 and a few others, then there's also question of decentralization of their components, because the design is, I think it is very good, to be honest, to have this two-step verification. You have the relayer and then you have the verification on the blockchain header with these proofs. But then you still have this relayer supposed to be very highly decentralized, so you can counter, you can mitigate the risk of conspiracy. But the fact is that we're still very early in terms of these cross-chain solutions. So it's not. A lot of people are criticizing because it's not decentralized enough.
Yeah, I think Vince just went a lot deeper than I'm able to, which was really high quality stuff. The short answer from my perspective, especially speaking to the point of security, right, it's about picking the right partners and having good communication, right? Obviously, it's no secret that bridges specifically are probably some of the the greatest from an economic perspective, Achilles heels of our aggregate ecosystem, right? So, I mean, we work specifically, Hyperlane, Layer 0, Union, among others, obviously Wormhole. And it's just simply a matter of, I guess, having a little faith in the boys, that they're not going to rug you, and having your tech teams in constant communication as you guys scale. Yeah, just pick good partners, have a little bit of faith.
Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, I can speak from experience here, actually, because we were previously building a cross-chain application, right? And there's all the obvious answers, like, user experience and, user having to, go through multiple chains, have their balance on multiple chains maintained and all that stuff. But I think the thing that gets overlooked a lot is the developer experience of building a cross-chain application, and for anything beyond, like a simple token transfer, right? So it's you have to make sure that you send a transaction from one chain, that it doesn't get reverted on another chain. And what do you do in case it gets reverted? So it's like a big engineering overhead to build a cross-chain application in the naive way, or the way that is standard today. And also, as an application, you have to, if you deploy on n different chains, you have to maintain n different deployments and infrastructure there and all that stuff. So it's a big pain to build a cross-chain application today. Of course, there's the security aspect that Vince and Bernd has already talked about. But I think focusing on developer experience and making sure the experience of developing an application on the cross-chain fashion, or a chain abstracted fashion, is seamless enough is the first step to making sure we have enough applications to get users onboarded into this whole ecosystem, right? So I think I would say that's the main problem that we're facing today.
I do have one more thing to add here, because based on our own experience, that although as a developer we believe that security is most fundamental and important question and problem to be solved, but in reality, that the most users do not really care as much. And we often find that in this market, the most popular products are actually not so well designed, or they have a very obvious flaws in terms of security design, but still they get very popular, and a lot of users and a lot of funds are using these products. It's kind of interesting to have noticed that, and then we understand that actually making some trade-offs in to have better user experience, have like a little less robust and perfected security design probably is right approach. Maybe in the, at least in the short near term, it can, give you more edge in terms of competence to win the battle, with the other products. Especially cross-chain, there are so many cross-chain protocols, so many cross-chain products. And our focus is actually just to help the application builders just to to have this aggregated layer. They can directly deploy their products just at one stop. So we did the heavy engineering lifting for them. We think really hard about how to solve the challenge of security, to manage the states difference across chains, and how to accelerate the finality at the minimum cost possible, and still have a reasonable operation cost across chains, because it could be really costly to have cross-chain products, right? Because you're dealing with some chains that could have very expensive gas fees. For example, Ethereum, Layer 1, sometimes the gas cost could be expensive.
Interesting. Yeah, so that actually kind of leads me to my next question. I actually was going to ask, do you think it makes sense for developers who would like to build in cross-chain context to focus more on the front end and user experience side in that case, moving forward?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Do you think it makes sense, one advice that you give for devs who are looking to develop cross-chain protocols? Do you think it makes sense for them to focus more on front end and UX, user experience, as opposed to something like what you just mentioned,
Yeah, I think I already answered this question, right? Yeah. I believe the answer for me is yes. And there are already a few cross-chain infrastructures that allows them, that can enable them to do so. So there's several products, quite cool products we use in Zero's architecture and their infra. And there's also a few products building with us as well. And probably some products using XION and your solution. We definitely need more builders to focus on the user experience and the real product features than just reinvent the wheels and build more infras.
Go ahead. Yeah. I would say if you can create something new, or if you as a builder, if you can create something that is actually beneficial to users, I think it makes a lot of sense to make some trade-offs there, and I think eventually the solution or the feature would find its place based on how much it is demanded by users and all. For example, Hyperliquid, the L1, it's it's I need to do a deeper dive there, but it looks like they're using a multisig, a 3 out of 5 multisig to bridge assets from Ethereum or other chains into the L1. But I mean, their feature is good. People love using Hyperliquid. Their user experience is amazing.
It is the same with Orbiter Finance.
Oh, really?
Used to. They just they have liquidity pools on different chains, and that's the end of the tech. But it works really well, and they have a very high revenue stream, and they have a lot of users. They win the battle. They are one of the most popular cross-chain bridge. And make no mistake, it's not technology that really have helped them to win the battle, but the user experience.
Yeah. So as long as the user experience is good enough and the market accepts you, well, you found your place there. But I mean, I guess as the industry that you're in, you'd have to eventually find some way to progressively decentralize your protocol.
Yeah, I like that note that as long as the user interface is good enough, right, and the market accepts you, it's clearly that, UX UI isn't everything. Take, the smashing success of Pump Fun on Solana, this cycle, right? Some of the most abysmal user interface that we've ever seen, and yet somehow it's doing more revenue, day over day, month over month than I think Ethereum. right? So it's clear that user interfaces and everything. I think specifically within the context of chain abstraction, within the context of the things that we're discussing, and specifically from the perspective of a blockchain whose goal is mass adoption, for consumers specifically. My answer to your question, is a resounding yes, right? Give me something mediocre that people can actually use, as opposed to just something that's tech for tech's sake, that's completely illegible, right? And I think that we'll see, if we want more users in crypto as a whole than there are right now, it will be, inevitable and necessary that on the aggregate, UX UI begins increasing, and not only increasing in quality, but quality pegged to traditional Web 2 experiences, right? Make things feel like Amazon, PayPal, YouTube, Google, right? You trend to that level of simplicity. That's the end goal.
Yeah. By the way, I think it is already happening with what we have seen with the Tongue ecosystem, and also the Kaya, which used to be Clayton, with it, and they're also launching the mini app soon. And I think this is a trend, and there will be more people building mini apps and trying to get more users on board. Then this is kind of a healthy signal that I've seen. We'll get, as the industry, more users, more adoption, and of course I think the chain abstraction infras and the solutions would definitely be needed, and I think it would definitely be one of the next things that are going to be successful.
Got it. Interesting. I wanted to dive a bit into frameworks, so chain abstraction frameworks, as well as value accrual, because obviously, given where the market is, a lot of people are like, where does value usually accrue to, right? So my first question would be, would you say Cake is the best framework to think about chain abstraction? So for context, Cake is proposed by Frontier. They essentially have 3 layers. They have the dApp layer, the solver layer, as well as settlement layer. So my question here for the panelists would be, where do you think value should accrue the most to?
Yeah, I can go ahead with that. Well, I think the value should accrue the most to the thing that the users think about the first, right? Okay, so when I, for example, use an application on it. So if I want to use something on a blockchain, right? It's not like I think about, okay, I want to do a transaction on Ethereum. It's like I want to do some swap on Uniswap, right? So I think from that perspective, I'd say the value should flow to the application layer itself, and then after that should be on the settlement layer, because that's what providing you with the guarantees that your thing would be successful, or like it's secured enough. And then solver network, or like the solver aspect of it, it's a little tricky because as we talked initially, it's like it's a race to the bottom. Everyone is trying to get a pie of it. So I think that's really the order I'd say the value accruing to.
Okay.
Anything to add? Yeah, well, I think yes. Mostly, I agree with what Rachin just said. Yeah, although it's not very good news, seems to the solver, infra that is being built up. But I think by first principle, of course, is the applications and the products that actually users like to use that gets most value attributed to, and then it's debatable whether it's the settlement layer or solver, because if you have a very smart design and you have a very powerful and popular solver, that you can still, I think, get a reasonable share of the revenue stream. If you think about just an example of like Apple versus the applications, right? The tax there is crazy, but still, it's hard not to use it.
Well, but then don't you think the competition for solvers is much higher than for settlement because
Oh, that is true. Yes.
yeah,
Totally.
because you have like a limited number of settlement layers, and then you have like theoretically unlimited numbers of like solvers, right? So doesn't that naturally lead to competition in more competition in solvers than in settlement layers?
Sure. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think, I have another question based on that, right? So if we do see a future in which value accrues mostly to a dApp layer, which could be a wallet interface or whatnot, or even settlement layer, right? So I'm just wondering, if in the case that wallet do own the user relationship, or dApp front ends actually own most of the end user relationships, wouldn't that cause another type of fragmentation in the sense that users will have to have multiple wallets? Because there's like a whole bunch of wallets and each of them, has their own relationships with, their own users. Do you see that happening or not really?
How many exchange dApps you have on your phone?
I have at least 2 or 3, I think.
I think it's inevitable that we will have multiple wallets, no matter how popular one wallet gets to. Yeah, this is for chain abstraction products. We have a lot of debates. I think my personal take is that, it's going to be like multiple wallets, and they will have their own product features, and the multiple big ones will take most of market share, and then you have like the tier 2s.
Well, I would say it's a little different than having having the fragmentation in applications, or having the fragmentation in different networks and between wallets, because for networks, the problem is not the fragmentation itself, but it's the lack of it's the lack of composability, or like the interoperability between these layers that's a problem, right? But with wallets, it's like it's still connected to everything else, right? So the fragmentation is only in the distribution of users rather than any network effects that goes around with it. So I don't think it would be that big of a problem than it is about like the fragmentation of networks.
Got it. Boots, you have anything to add?
I think these gentlemen covered it pretty well.
Okay. Got it. Great. I actually went through most of the questions I wanted to go through today. Do you guys want to talk about token value accruals or?
Anything specific there? Token value accruals?
Yeah. So in that context, I guess we can wrap this discussion up with this question: is how should chain and dApp developers think about their token value accrual if they are building with a solution like yours?
I guess, speaking at a very, very high level here, not getting too into the weeds, first, you need to have some things on your chain that people actually want to use, right? Because I think at a very pervasive level, there's just really not a whole lot to do on chain in general, aside from speculation and obtaining yield, right?
Pump fun.
Yeah, exactly. From pump fund, or any type of glorified gambling speculation, or acquiring various fucking APYs. There's really not a whole lot to do, right? So from the perspective, the design perspective, is all right. We're kind of banking on mass adoption here, right? How are we going to do that? Well, first of all, you need people to come to your chain and actually build things that, one, don't exist already, and two, are compelling enough to get people to kind of come to Web3, even if it is, on the front end it looks like Web2. But you need to give people a reason to get on chain and do stuff, right? So when we're talking about, token value accrual, or how do we make the number go up, as I like to put it, right? How do I make the fucking number go up, right? First of all is create such an environment, through tooling largely, that people want to come to your chain and build really, really, really cool stuff, okay? And then, once they build cool stuff, ideally, you have such an environment that the number just goes up on its own, right? That's kind of the long and the short of it. Use tooling to create an environment where people are going to come build, revolutionary things, and if you build it, they will come. Like, what's that, Field of Dreams, That's kind of the long and the short. That's the big idea there.
I can go ahead, yeah. well, yeah, that's too cliche, but but yeah, I think like we live in a society where like where value flows to whoever provides you with the most utility, right? So I don't like to think too much about like how we accrue value to the token and all that stuff. Rather, like how we provide the best possible utility to users and build those type of applications totally in line with what Bernd said, and just like let the utility flow the value to the token, or like whatever mechanism you use to like coordinate your application or like any network that you create.
But in practice, it's so hard because the application features and the utilities are, in a lot of cases, most cases are totally separate from the tokenomics.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to capture the value and from the utilities. I'm pretty sure that we're building something that some people will be using, but it's, I don't know, but we don't have a good answer for how to align the tokenomics with these utilities, especially in the case it's chain abstraction. But yeah, there are a few things that we can think about. Number one is the gas. If you abstract your gas, you can make your own token an option for gas payments with some discounts, some prestige, or and then you also have some sort of governance mechanism implemented because you will deal with multiple chains, multiple applications, and then there's certain things you probably need to adjust from time to time, and then you would want to have a decentralized governance protocol or mechanism, and then you need the token to coordinate, and it makes sense too. And also, when you there's some cost associated with multi-chain settlements, and you could also utilize your token to cover that part. There are several things that still make sense.
Got it. Yeah, that covers most questions I want to cover today. It seems like obviously you guys are taking very different approaches, but ultimately the goal here is to ship the idea of chain abstraction to everyone and just make blockchain as easy to use for everyone. So yeah, that wraps up the panel for today. Thank you very much for your time, guys, and thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin.
Thank you.